today's lesson is about the global manufacturing strategies of multinationals, is the part 2. And we will discuss the global supply chain and the value chain, and we will focus the differences between the global supply chain and the value chain. And then we will talk about the corporate social responsibilities in multinational companies. So global supply chain and value chain. Let's start from a sort of definition of supply chain. Supply chain encompasses all the activities associated with the flow and transformation of goods from the raw material stage through to end users, as well as the associated information flows. The supply chain usually involves more than one firm, usually quite many firms that are linked in this flow of goods, of materials, and also of information. The value chain is the collection of activities to design, produce, market, deliver, and support products, services described in a sequence. So the idea of value chain is the set of activities, the collection of activities that a company has to fulfill in order to create value, and that's why we call it a value chain. It's the chain to create value by fulfilling different activities to design, produce, market, deliver, and so on, products and services. And the value chain describes these different activities in a sequence. So it's important to understand the links between different activities. The activities, again, are called value activities. The activities of the value chain are called value activities because through these activities the firm creates value to its customers. When talking of supply chain, we are thinking of the flow and processing of inputs along the chain. While when talking of value chain, the idea is that each activity of the chain generates output which brings added value to the manufacturer. So we can consider the value chain at the level of a single company or also at the level of a single business, while the supply chain considers all activities that are fulfilled by different companies in an industry. The firm has to transform the supply chain into value chain, meeting or exceeding the customer's expectations at the lowest cost and achieving success in terms of profitability. This means that companies no longer compete on single products or single service, but rather through supply chain and value chain. So in order to reach a competitive advantage, it is important to organize value chain in a more effective and efficient way than the competitors in order to be able to lower cost or to achieve a cost leadership, or in order to differentiate the products. And this depends this comes from the specific way the company organizes and fulfill the value activities. At the same time, it is also important the role the company can play in a certain supply chain, and so the links with other companies of the same supply chain. Value chain as well as a supply chain can have international dimension involving parties, companies located in different countries. And so we can consider global value chain or global production network. Global value chain indicates a value chain where activities are carried out in different countries. So each activity is concentrated in a few locations around the world and strictly linked to other activities located in other geographic areas. We can say that the activities of the value chain are not fulfilled only in one location or only in one country, but in different countries. And so the company tries to concentrate each activity in a few locations, in the places, in the geographic areas where it is more convenient, where there are best conditions to fulfill that kind of activity. And of course, the company can has to link these activities, the activities fulfilled in different countries. It is clear that this kind of global value chain can be managed only if the company has the technologies, and specifically the information communication technologies that are required to get these links and to make these links among different geographic areas be very effective. Global production network is a set of specialized independent enterprises which captures complex systemic relationships and interrelations. We at global level, at international level, we have also network to produce, a network of companies to produce. These companies are mainly independent enterprises, but are linked because they work together in order to complete a supply chain or even a value chain. The global production network reflects the process of fragmentation of knowledge-intensive activities in some value chains. So, as we said in some past lesson, the company tries to be focused on some specific activity, in that activity or in the activities where it can be excellent, and then it looks for relations, cooperations with other companies, also in other countries, to create a network, a production network. Leading multinationals are playing a key role in organizing and controlling these global production networks. Usually a network has an hub, and the hub is the leading multinational which organize, develop, controls the global production networks, even if the single nodes of the network, so the single companies that are part of the networks, remain independent players. And of course, this model allows a multinational to benefit from locational differences in costs, infrastructures, capabilities, and different capabilities in manufacturing or in marketing. So each global production network has a brand leader. We could call the hub of the network a brand leader. The brand leaders act as flagship firms So allow suppliers to remain independent, but demand a high performance from these suppliers. They act as a leader. They sometimes even give a brand to the network. And of course, this is a great advantage for suppliers, so for the nodes of the networks, because usually these suppliers don't have their own brand, don't have the capability to compete directly in the final market. So these suppliers become more competitive, become stronger thanks to the network. So they remain independent, but at the same time they have to be very careful to follow what the flagship firm, what the brand leader asks them to do. And the kind of productive performance that the brand leader expects from the supplier. Brand leader pursue cost reduction and product differentiation, and also time to market strategies. Brand leader can so have different very complex competitive objectives, and they try to reach these objectives through outsourcing, volume and low margin manufacturing, and also developing support services. Sort of a triangle manufacturing appears. It is a strategy adopted by some contract manufacturers, which take orders from the leading flagship firms and shift part or all of the requested production to other factories. So we have not only suppliers in the networks, but also sub-suppliers. Each of the main supplier, each of the main node in the network can organize other networks of other suppliers. And so each of the main node of the network can form its own production network. Sometimes multinationals prefer to internationalize production in their value chains. So it's true that multinationals act as a brand leader, they develop a global production network, they outsource in order to exploit cost advantages, exploit the specialization of different suppliers, exploit also the opportunity that some of these suppliers organize their own supplier network. At the same time, it's also true that for that some activities, some value chain activities are internationalized, and of course internalization is preferred when multinationals' discrete competencies are involved, or where transaction costs of coordinating suppliers become too large. So it is more convenient to internalize. Okay, now corporate social responsibility. Of course, we are talking about corporate social responsibility in multinational companies at global level. We have to consider that corporate social responsibility, the consideration of corporate social responsibility has increased a lot during these last 20-25 years in Europe, also in the United States, and in Japan. but it is an issue which is very relevant also for emerging countries and developing countries, because, of course, most international European and American companies are located in these countries, and so the policies they develop and their social responsibility affects also the development of emerging countries and developing countries. So in the past 20-25 years, there has been a radical change in the relationship between business and society. Of course, there would be a lot of things to be said about this issue. We can sum up saying that companies recognize their duties in solving social and environmental problems. I have to be very clear about this point. There are some scholars that say that the main only duty of a company is making profit and maximize profitability. Of course, with the profit that the company has created, the company can choose to help solving some social and environmental problems. For other scholars, it's not only an issue of using the profits created by the company, it's something more than this. It's that the company has to recognize its duty in solving social and environmental problems. So solving social and environmental problems becomes an objective, a strategic objective of the company, like exactly like maximizing profitability. Or we could say that social and environmental issues have to be part of the vision of the company. And why this should be true? Because helping to solve social and environmental problems is very important to secure a company's long-term success. Someone says that any company can have success in the long term, or even can survive in the long term, only if it takes part in managing social and environmental problems. Only if it's able to solve public needs, not only private needs. So companies are expected to create economic value, social value, and environmental value. Not only create economic value and then take part of the economic value created in order to solve or to give an help in solving social and environmental problems, but developing a business model, a strategy aimed to create at the same time economic, social, and environmental value. And so it's said that companies have to be socially and environmentally responsible, or that they have to be sustainable. And we understand that the sustainable is linked to the sustainable development. Companies have to take in considerations the objectives and expectations of most part of its stakeholders, both internal and external stakeholders. And so it's important to focus who these stakeholders are. First of all, shareholders. Shareholders which are mainly interested in the maximization of profit, but also workers, clients. So clients have to be considered by the company not only as the target, the market where to sell, where to make profits, but also as persons, actors, parties that have to be helped to develop. So the company has to promote policies that help its clients to have a better life and solve their problems. Suppliers also, so the company has to take care about their suppliers and about their development. Public institutions also are stakeholders and generally speaking social actors. We have this kind of problems. I mean, the will of taking care of different internal and external stakeholders, both at national level and at international level. So policies for sustainability have to be developed also at international level, taking in considerations expectations and needs of international stakeholders, located in different countries. And at international level, policies for sustainability have to face some key issues. First of all, standardization versus local adaptation. I mean, having the same kind of approach about sustainability in different countries, in the different countries where the company is located and operates, or looking for a different approach to sustainability, specific for each country, for each foreign country, because the different social and environmental conditions, because of the differences in priorities, in social and environmental priorities, and so on. Second key issues is how to develop relations with international stakeholders, for example, international public bodies, international public institutions. And third point, local versus international responsiveness. Sustainability regards also small and medium-sized enterprises. Even if, of course, we can say that that most part of international big groups are presently involved in sustainability. So in most part of most industries, especially market leaders, are very careful and they invest in developing policies which are good for the environment and which are good for improving social conditions. Of course, there are still not so many small or medium enterprises involved in sustainability, but the number is increasing. And they are involved because small and medium enterprises are suppliers to international companies and markets, and so their client quite often ask them to have sustainable policies for sustainability. On the other side, small and medium enterprises are recipients of support through programs aimed to backing economic development. There are some relevant guidelines that address multinational policies for sustainability. These guidelines are all very relevant because they help developing a certain convergence of policies in different industries in different countries. As we said before, from one point of view, it's necessary, it's important to differentiate policies in different countries and also in different industries because the relevance of different environmental and social issues can be different. On the other side, it's important to have a certain convergence, and for this objective it's very important to have general guidelines given by international institutions. For example, the United Nations Global Compact is one of these guidelines, and we will show it later. Corporate social responsibility policies by multinationals affect small and medium enterprises in developing countries. And this happens because small, medium enterprises in developing countries can be suppliers of multinationals. So multinationals, from one side, usually ask their local suppliers to fulfill some policies regarding social behavior or regarding environmental behavior. We have to be very clear about one point. Sustainability policies don't regard simply don't regard simply the need to respect laws. Sustainability policies ask companies to do more than what the law has established. Multinational can ask small and medium enterprises in developing countries to have better behaviors in social or environmental issues. So we mentioned the Global Compact. Global Compact is rooted into the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, in ILO's fundamental principles and rights at work, and in the Earth Summit Agenda 21 principles on environment. And it is articulated into 9 principles. First of all, principles regarding human rights, respect the protection of international human rights within their sphere of influence, and make sure that our corporations are not complicit in human rights abuses. It's clear how important are these principles in developing countries, also in some emerging countries. Second chapter is about labor. First principle, uphold the freedom of association and effective recognition of the right of collective bargaining. The elimination of all forms of forced and compulsory labor. The effective abolition of child labor. And the elimination of discrimination in employment and occupation. It's clear about how delicate are these principles, because the consideration of relevance, of urgence also of this principle these principles can be different in different countries because of different social conditions, economic conditions of people, and also because of cultural attitudes. So we can understand how important is having international guidelines established by relevant institutions, I mean main international institutions, because these principles have also a cultural effect. They can be useful to start a kind of cultural convergence and develop back a general acceptance of some basic ideas like the abolition, for example, the abolition of child labor. The third chapter regards environment, support a precautionary approach to environmental challenges, undertake the development and diffusion of environmental responsibility, and encourage the development and diffusion of environmentally friendly technologies. Again, we can understand the differences of attitude in different countries, in different cultures. For example, we can, in Europe, we are now very keen and very active in adapting environmentally friendly technologies. But I mean, it's not easy because these technologies can be costlier and can be also difficult to adapt these technologies. So it requires a long-term approach. As we said before, it's very important to be responsible, having a long-term approach, looking for long-term economic value creation. In the short term, if the company is focused, or the society is focused on short-term value, economic value creation, it's much more difficult to adapt principles of sustainability. While if we mature a long-term attitude, a long-term vision, it's much easier, and sustainability can be very effective in the long-term development of the company. So sustainability implies basically 2 points. First of all, stakeholder engagement and corporate reporting on social and environmental performance. In order to develop effective sustainability policies, it's necessary, it's I would say required to engage different stakeholders. This means that the company not only tries to create value to different stakeholders, not only create value to the shareholders, but to the different stakeholders. Not only the company does this, but the company also tries to engage stakeholders in the definition of its policies, in the definition of its strategies. And the reason is quite simple, because first of all, stakeholders usually have a better knowledge of key issues in, for example, environmental condition or some social conditions. So if the stakeholder is engaged, of course, it can advise, it can support the company in understanding the key issues, the key problems, and defining the better policies to handle that kind of issue. And of course, stakeholder engagement is important in order to increase the pressure that the company can feel about a certain kind of issue. Second very important point is corporate reporting on social and environmental performance. It's important to measure what the company really does to support social and environmental objectives. I mean, what really the company does in creating a social and environmental value. And the corporate has to control its performance and to describe, to be very transparent about this performance. And at international level, some very relevant indicators, quantitative and qualitative indicators, have been prepared and also adopted by many important international companies. And companies, each year, companies measure their social and environmental performance using these indicators, and they try to improve their performance year after year. Okay, so just to have a summary of what we said, we talked about global supply chain and global value chain. I mean, the idea, the concept of supply chain and value chain, and how the value chain and supply chain can be developed at international or global level as a way to improve the all competitiveness of the company. And it's important to understand that main multinational tend to be brand leader. I mean, tend to be the hub of a global production network, so to organize production activities and the activities of the value chain, the value activities at international level through developing a network of suppliers and sub-suppliers. The second point, the second issue we discussed is corporate social responsibility at international level. We underlined one new approach to business. Following this approach, the key objective is not only maximizing profit, maximizing economic value, but creating at the same time economic, social and environmental value. So the company has to develop a kind of an organization and a competitive strategy which is aimed to create economic, social and environmental value. And so it's important taking in consideration also the needs of the society, of the nation, of the country where the company is located and operates. We have some international guidelines which are very much important to make companies and different stakeholders converge, recognize some common principles. Of course, are very general common principles, because on the other side it's also important to develop sustainable policies that take in consideration the specific social and environmental conditions of different countries. It's very important the stakeholder engagement, and it's important also that the company measure its social and environmental performance in order to understand year after year how to improve that performance. Thank you.